If you haven't played this game before, do yourself the favor. Play it. F-Zero GX was released on July 25th, 2003, and it was the last mainline game of the series. The game was developed by Sega and published by Nintendo. With the release of GX, the game had an arcade counterpart called F-Zero AX that sadly, I never got to play. However, GX is such a standout game that was so ahead of its time, I don't think any other racing game even comes close to it. F-Zero GX is a one-of-a-kind, hardcore, 3D, futuristic racing game, and to this day I do not understand why it hasn't gotten a sequel. And when I say one-of-a-kind, I don't mean there aren't other games in the genre. Games like Wipeout, Redout, and Fast Racing Neo, they all exist and they're all great in their own way, but there's a void in the sci-fi racing genre that can only be filled with a game like F-Zero. The cast of characters, the music, the precise controls that will punish you if you even think about blinking. F-Zero is such a unique experience and it has a fan base begging for its revival for more than 2 decades. So if you have the time, sit back and let me explain to you exactly what makes this game so unique and why so many fans are craving for a sequel. Okay. So right off the bat I gotta say, if you haven't played any of the F-Zero titles, these games are not easy. F-Zero GX being the best example and arguably the hardest title. In this game, you're essentially controlling a futuristic vehicle at high speeds through tight turns and loops. For the first lap, it's your standard racing game, but on lap 2, you unlock your boost power.
This is where the fun begins.
Your boost meter is shared with your health bar, which creates an element of resource management in this game that's unparalleled to anything else in the genre. Want to conserve your health so a single wall won't kill you? You can, but your 29 rivals might not feel the same. And that's part of the fun of this game. It's all about that high risk and high reward, that push and pull. Best way I can describe it is to say it's the fighting game of racing games. No, not in a sense of taking down your opponent with flashy combos and supers, but in a sense where this game has so much tech that newcomers are absolutely going to get mollywopped when first playing. If you sit down, learn the controls, understand your options, take those risks, you are heavily rewarded with a fast experience and a sense of speed that is unmatched. But Charlie, to compare it to fighting games, you may be asking? Is that really a fair comparison? My response is, absolutely! If you played or understand a fighting game, you understand that there are techniques and mechanics that separate a beginner to your average player to a pro, like a parry in Street Fighter 3rd Strike, proper sidestepping techniques in Tekken, or wave dashing in Smash Melee. Well, F-Zero has its fair share of advanced techniques that push you to play to that same level. For example, snaking is a technique in which you stray from side to side to reach speeds normally unreachable through normal acceleration. Another example is a technique called momentum throttling, in which if your vehicle is above max speed, you actually want to turn your engine off to keep your speed. Holding down the A button will actually cause you to go slower if you're going too fast. And that's just the beginning of it. Even mastering the basics improves your game so far from where you started, it feels like you're playing an entirely different game. Learning how to turn properly, prevent sliding, maximizing boost potential, all small things with noticeable results. And all of that is just one of the many reasons why no other game in the genre can capture the feel of F-Zero. Not to say the games are bad, because I personally love Fast Racing Neo and love Redout, but they pale in comparison to how F-Zero feels. Neo and Red feel, well, floaty, and you can tell how the game responds to movement that you're controlling a vehicle defying gravity. There isn't a lot of weight to your actions, which is fine for those games, but with F-Zero, the game controls so precisely that any hesitation of movement will send you straight into a wall or just straight off the map. Boosts are so fast that by doing them back to back, it actually increases your speed well beyond your initial boost. And chaining that alongside boost panels scattered throughout the map as lightning trails behind, all with these precise controls, no other game that I know of comes remotely close to the amount of detail and thought that went into this game. Your max speed is nothing more than a recommendation, not an actual limit. Like many racing games before and after it, each vehicle has its own stats. This game has body, boost, and grip. And funny enough, these stats are heavily misleading. Yeah, it sounds wild, but almost all the stats in game don't line up to exactly how these vehicles perform. Some closer than others, but there's a lot of misses. I'll link an amazing guide if you're interested in learning the exact stats down below. In general, body is your vehicle's weight, and usually how much health they have. Boost is how long a boost is performed and how strong it is. And grip is how well your vehicle turns corners and how unlikely they are to start sliding. There's a total of 41 vehicles in this game, and just with those 3 simple stats, none of them play the same. Mighty Gazelle and Black Bull are 2 great examples of this. Gazelle's acceleration is quick with decent top speed, but his boost alone puts him on a tier of his own. Black Shadow has terrible boosting abilities, but his grip and top speed makes him the literal top tier powerhouse of the roster next to Fat Shark. His snaking capabilities are so insane, he almost breaks the game with how fast he can go. I've still yet to master this, but that's mainly because I usually play by myself, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? Does the gameplay have its downsides? Well, yeah. All these techniques I've mentioned were either self-taught or learned through YouTube videos. So imagine coming into this game and not knowing the controls. This game isn't like Double Dash where you can pick it up and get a feel for it. Like a fighting game, playing this game well is a skill that develops over time. Because of all the tech and mechanics mentioned earlier, it has a steep learning curve that can turn away players from GX, especially if you haven't mastered drifting or strafing. You see, the heavier a vehicle is, the more prone it is to just start sliding. And that's amplified more by hitting the joystick too hard and going too fast. You cannot hesitate or panic in your turning. It's something that I'm more than used to, but I can say the sliding is the #1 thing gameplay wise that turns people off from playing this game. At least in my circle of friends. It's a great mechanic, but again, a huge barrier of entry. Another thing that sucks about this game is just due to how it's programmed, sometimes your character will die for nothing. It sounds kind of crazy, but look at this footage. I hit nothing. I flew off the map. That kind of thing happens in this game. Despite the challenge, GX is an amazing game that has a lot to offer, and I do recommend you try it out if you ever get the chance. Yes, there are other games in the sci-fi racing genre, but there's just nothing like F-Zero on the market, and there hasn't been for 2 decades. This game has a ton of features, like a ridiculous amount. Like, I actually don't even know where to begin. Let's start with the story mode. Yes, you heard me correctly, this game has a story mode. 9 chapters of pure hell that tested my patience and skills as a child. Each chapter has a beginning and ending cutscene with a stage and objective to complete. Sometimes it's pretty much just your standard race, sometimes it's a bit more tactical than that, like when you have to navigate a tube of gates trying to block you, or defeating 29 enemies before the finish. But every time it's frustrating when you're starting off. These levels are tough, and it doesn't help that you're forced to use the Blue Falcon, which unfortunately is arguably one of the most mediocre vehicles in the game. But man, coming back to them, these missions are fun. It doesn't matter how old you are, it feels extremely satisfying to pass one of these levels. It gives you such an extreme sense of accomplishment. I will say though, Chapter 7 is without a doubt the worst. It's a simple race against 29 other racers, except the 2 villains, Black Shadow and Blood Falcon, are cheating. No, that's not a joke. They're actually cheating. Higher top speeds, extra health, better boost, they were designed and programmed to be tough and have increased stats. So when you do eventually get to beat this stage, woo! As for the actual story and its cutscenes, well, all the cutscenes are pretty short and the story is pretty generic, but it somehow still manages to have a charm. The characters feel lively and some of the cutscenes have lived in my head rent-free for years.
Falcon, you've come to die. I needn't have wasted time looking for you then. Let's settle this at the Grand Prix. Not like this. It's the coward's way. The coward's way? You make it sound so noble. I just plan to eliminate anyone who stands between me and the prize. Simple as that.
Unfortunately, even the bad ones. Does the story make sense? Yeah, kind of. Is it outstanding? No. The story is almost like watching a Saturday morning cartoon where every episode has a different goal. And even when the bad guy is beaten, there's just another bad guy lying in wait. So with that in mind, the story can be really cheesy at times.
Come off it. You think you can beat me? No way.
But come on, this game has a story mode with cutscenes. Besides the AAA racing game titles like Need for Speed, how often does a racing game of any kind have a story? And this was in the GameCube era, mind you. Speaking of, this GameCube era game has a total of 20 stages and 31 characters, except nope. Like a lot of people I know, this game was so tough that after beating the story, the idea of beating it again on a higher difficulty? Not gonna happen. But each chapter has 2 extra difficulties. Why would you want to put yourself through even more hell? Well, you know that arcade port called F-Zero AX I mentioned earlier? That game had 10 exclusive characters and 5 stages that were only obtainable by attaching your memory card to the machine. Or, at least that's what I thought. See, pre-internet days, most kids had no idea that these locked characters were actually obtainable in-game. You have to beat each stage on the hardest difficulty, and you'll unlock a new character for each stage beaten. If you beat all 9 story mode chapters on the hard difficulty, you'll then unlock Spade, the final character. And the extra 5 levels, obtainable by beating all the Grand Prix on the highest difficulty. Now that's way easier said than done. If you thought this game was tough before, just know most people struggle to beat this game on normal difficulty. So just imagine what Chapter 7 is like. On top of the standard single player options like Grand Prix, Story, and Time Trial, you could also enter versus to play with up to 3 other friends. There's also a practice mode so you can practice your snaking techniques, which I'm terrible at. Not liking any of the playable vehicles? Then why not make a card of your own? Yep, different machine parts, colors. You can even customize your own emblem and add it to the vehicle. This game has so much going on that in terms of raw content, it puts modern games of the genre to shame. There are 41 characters in this game, and every single one of them even have their own unique song. Oh yeah, you're not ready for this. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Possibly one of the best video game soundtracks of all time. Hear me out, okay? Just think about it. This game has 41 songs for each unique character, and a good chunk of them even have vocals. All these songs have such character and personality, Captain Falcon and Black Shadows personally just being my favorites. Falcon's song is something that sounds like it's straight out of a Christian rock band.
In this world you've got to be strong.
While Shadows sounds like the Golf Kids got together for another rave under that bridge. As a bonus fun fact, the 3 primary bad guys being Black Shadow, Blood Falcon, and Deathborn all share the same voice tracks that tie their lines together. Who is that, man? Who does that? Not Nintendo, clearly. Sega does. Besides the character themes, all stages and every game mode also have their own theme. Shotgun Kiss is my favorite level theme, and I felt blessed ever since it got brought over to Smash Ultimate. If I could, I'd play a snippet of every song just so you could get a taste, but I don't want to risk the copyright. So definitely check out the OST if you can. The Monkeys theme is metal. Obviously some songs are better than others, but for the most part it seems to be preference. If I had to think of one downside to the OST, is that there's some songs to this day that I've yet to find the full song for. These are generally tied to story mode cutscenes, Chapter 3 being a great example of this, with this song.
Please, consider it an old man's last request. Just calm down.
We will shortly be closing registration for the next race.
The next race is going to start! Hey, where do you think you're taking me? Wait!
Being nowhere online when looking for it. For whatever reason, probably Nintendo being Nintendo, on the official OST it doesn't even come up. It's a total mystery, and it just sucks that these songs could be considered lost media at this point. F-Zero is such a fantastic series, and F-Zero GX is the best game in the genre. Is it hard? Yes, but that's what made games like this so fun. Sure, sometimes you want to just pick up a game and play it, but for the ones who don't mind losing a lot, come some of the best wins gaming can offer. Just look at From Software's games. Those games are meant to be challenging. When you combine that challenge with the tools given to succeed, a crazy amount of unlockable content, and a banging soundtrack, it leaves a rewarding gameplay experience. You're left with one of the best games of a generation. Nintendo has yet to release a game in the series since October 21st, 2004, leaving the series without a new game for almost 2 decades. When speaking to GamesBeat, ex-president Reggie Fils-Aimé stated that, "The insight I would share is that, at least during my tenure, Nintendo developers were always experimenting with different gameplay styles, always thinking about where a unique experience could be applied back, either to an existing franchise or maybe creating a new franchise. To put it in layman terms, Nintendo likely hasn't made a new F-Zero because they've yet to find a way to evolve it. You know, make it new and exciting because they're always looking to do new things. I got you right now, Nintendo. 30-player racing online in the sci-fi racing genre. Never been done before in gaming history. Keep the tight controls, more vehicles, tracks that push your current console to the absolute limit. That's how you break the internet, Nintendo. That's how you bring F-Zero back. That's how you revive a lost legacy." So, what do you guys think? Have you ever played F-Zero GX? You want a sequel just as much as I do? Or you just never had the chance to play it? I'm curious to know your thoughts, and if you like the video, make sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more discussions just like this one, make sure to subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care.